here's what I always think. Like whenever something horrible happens in the world or to me or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is when I get to evolve. You started this conversation with, he's very difficult. So I already knew exactly what your relationship was like with him, not even knowing one thing about him. You've already decided he's difficult. So that's how you're approaching him. You think it's a C that he's difficult. It's your thought about him that's affecting how you show up for him. You said you've given up the manual, but you clearly haven't, right? You have lots of ideas about how they should clean the kitchen and take care of things. And it doesn't mean you don't ask for it, but you can see another 5-10 years down the road where this leads. And it doesn't mean you can't have the same rules. You just have them from love instead of from the resistance that you currently have them from. I hear you too. I think kids, men, adults should behave the way I want them to. All the people should. No one does. And so then I can be mad and pissed at everybody, or I can be like, okay, how do I want to relate to these people knowing that they're adults and they get to choose to do whatever they want? And I want to have an amazing relationship with them, and I want their dad to have an amazing relationship, and I want to understand them. And if they're doing stuff that's defiant, I want to understand why instead of just blowing them off and being pissed off about it. You see the difference? It does require more of you, but it also allows you to grow so much more as a human too. You still have your boundaries. They just come from a very different place. You got this. It can get just better from here. That's the good news. You got it. Okay, who's next? So the fairy tale is, I've raised a princess and he should be the prince and they should live happily ever after. But here's the thing, it's like you want to have a fairy tale life as if that's what life is supposed to be. As long as you want your daughter to have a fairy tale life, you're going to be in hell because it's impossible. And even if she thinks she's having a fairy tale life, you may disagree with her. Life is what it is, right? This is the experience that is, and we're not changing any of this, right? Because thinking this is my princess and she deserves to have a fairy tale is causing you a lot of suffering. Thinking it could go wrong. What that really means is it's not going to go the way I want it to go. That isn't necessarily wrong. That's her life. That's what's laid out in front of her, right? I mean, is the world going wrong because we have lots of negative things in it? No, I think the world's supposed to have negative things in it. Is your daughter's life supposed to get married to Mr. Right and never have another problem again? Wanting your daughter to have an easy, happy life is maybe not in her best interest. That's what the work that I have to do all the time, right? I want this for my kid and that for my kid, and I want happily ever after, and I want him to win all the golf tournaments, and I want him to become a PGA pro player, and all the things, right? In my mind, I'm like, then that would be a good life. Hey, but I don't know that. I don't know what life they're supposed to have. I get to watch it unfold and be there for him and know that that is the experience of the world. So you have to think about when you have this question, what if you're going to be fine, so is she. It's all part of the experience. The what if is the life, and you resisting against that, thinking that the fairy tale is the better life, is making you not live in one. Here's what happens when you make peace and you let go of needing to control your son-in-law, you're going to have a much better life. When you make peace with that, that's when you're going to be free. But here's what I always think, like whenever something horrible happens in the world or to me or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is when I get to evolve. This is a lot of work for you to do, is making peace with not being able to control the world or your son-in-law or your daughter's life. It's not their job to reassure you. That's your job to reassure you. But being honest with your daughter in a way that's authentic, I think is going to help with this kind of like, oh, I don't want this to even be a real thing that we have to be worried about. It's like always looking at our own mind and looking at what's true and allowing that to be true, allowing your concern to be there, allowing the emotions to be there and the fear to be there, and to go to the darkest place that it could be. And what I want you to do is ask yourself, what if, and go there, and don't try to make yourself feel better about it by saying, well, there's just as much chance that none of that will happen. Yes, you may be right about that, but can you understand that life and marriage and all of this is about what's laid out in front of us, and whatever it is will help us with our evolution as humans, and not necessarily having the perfect life or you pretending like everything's perfect when it isn't. Like pretending like everything is perfect when it isn't, that's what makes everyone go underground in shame. The way that I like to talk to my kids is not like, hey, I want your life to be perfect and I get upset when it isn't. I want you to know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what your experience is, I'm all in. You know, you don't have to have the life of a princess, honey. Like it doesn't have to be that way. The problem is it's so well intended. So it feels like love, but really it ends up being control. And then you end up not connecting in that way. So I think for you, Your worries don't need to be quelled. They don't need to be fixed. They just need to be processed. And I think you need to go all the way there.